Imagine Carla, a mother who, like millions, celebrated every Friday with movie marathons. On any given night in 2023, turn on the TV to discover something unthinkable. The screen shows a cold message from the house's favorite streaming platform. Limit of shared devices exceeded, Carla reads, anguished. Her daughter, curled up next to her, asks confused why they can't continue to watch their favorite series. That scene sums up the emotional shock that will mark the end of an era. A recent past where a click was enough to entertain oneself was left behind. Now, the streaming giants, who swore to offer unlimited and cheap entertainment, told them, "This is the end of your freedom." This contrast between Carla's homely warmth in her pajamas and the stark reality of the business raises agonizing questions. Why has the one who offered all the fun now become inaccessible? Who betrayed whom? And most importantly, are we facing the day when streaming died? The day streaming died. Since the mid-2000s, companies such as Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max promised the golden age of entertainment, an infinite catalog for a monthly fee. Netflix's visionary dream in 2010 that revolutionized how we consume series and movies. But the idyllic script began to go awry when the titans themselves decided that they had to protect their finances at the user's expense. For millions of subscribers, streaming was synonymous with freedom. Forget DVDs and piracy. Netflix came to be the radio of our time. The idea of paying a monthly fee and having a complete video library seemed too good to be true, and, in a low voice, it turned out that it was. The first pitfalls arose when the platforms began to increase prices. A basic Netflix plan that in 2013 cost $7 was now over $15. The same happened on Disney Plus and HBO, where packages went up to $20 per month per user. Not only that, services began to show advertising to those who paid less, degrading the original experience. But the real break was the betrayal of an unwritten principle: password sharing. Sharing the password with family and friends. At first, Netflix encouraged account sharing. "Love is sharing your password," they tweeted gleefully in 2017, captivating the masses. They said, "Plug the cousin into another country, everything is fine, we want to grow." But the music changed suddenly. One day, in 2022, the platform sent messages, "Stop there. Every household pays for its entertainment." By then, it was no longer Netflix inviting you into their ship, but a strict controller saying, "One at a time, please." Black screen with large letters. How far are you going to go for your favorite show? The betrayal was twofold. Those millions of subscribers who proclaimed #cancel Netflix, #cancel HBO, or #cancel Disney Plus on social networks did so with anger, but with one certainty: they had been taken by surprise. Many remembered the times without market sanity, when cousins, uncles, and even neighbors were supplied with a single account. Today, they paid 3 times more, and with the prohibition of helping the family, the pressure mounted. Some threatened to cancel, others began to take the old pirate accounts out of the drawer. Was it fair that the happiness of millions ended up on a screen telling them too many screens? The betrayal of password sharing. When Netflix announced password hunting in 2022, it unleashed a hurricane of outrage. The company, which in a few years had gone from 100 million sneaked households, users who watched without paying, to hundreds of millions of legitimate users, received fierce criticism. How? One day, you encouraged kindness. The next, you turned it into a business. Many raised their voices with digital fury. "That's stealing," they exclaimed. Cancel Netflix filled Twitter. Thousands closed their accounts in protest. And it wasn't just Netflix. Disney Plus and even HBO Max presented similar plans. It was ironic. Disney, the same brand that sold the fantasy of United Worlds, now prevented families from sharing accounts in practice. HBO, the cradle of hits to watch at home, joined the movement. What in 2020 had seemed like a battle won against piracy, thanks to Netflix at only $8.99 per month, has now revealed itself to be a double-edged sword. People realized, if you already pay for Netflix, why can't I watch a series on my brother's cell? They felt cheated. In mid-2023, the answer came clearly. According to internal estimates of the platforms, up to 100 million households in the world watched Netflix without paying. Transforming those ghosts into real customers was the watchword. In that eagerness, Netflix offered additional accounts at a low price or plans with cheaper ads, and Disney Plus launched similar options. However, the damage had already been done. Mistrust had surfaced. Users claimed in forums and YouTube videos that the promise, free for the family, became a charge. Undermining the public's goodwill, the analysts would say. Behind the screen, the moral was simple. The customer felt betrayed. In a matter of weeks, subscriptions reached the limit. Several media outlets reported massive cancellations. Disney Plus lost 1,700,000 subscribers in just days during September 2025, partly due to a political controversy, partly due to a rate increase, 436% above usual in a week. Netflix, after years of proud growth, saw its undefeated streak broken. Millions of users pondered canceling before giving up their passwords. For platforms, this measure was a strategic dilemma: gain new revenue or retain trust. The decision, in the end, was clear: to prioritize revenues. But for the common user, the message was the same: we rule, not you. Many spectators looked at each other, on the edge of the precipice of returning to old methods, now perceived as freedom hijacked by companies. The apocalypse of content. Just when it seemed that the war was only about passwords, the cultural blow arrived: the disappearance of titles. In a grim twist, platforms began deleting their own content. Complete series and award-winning films vanished overnight from their catalogs, leaving entire families with their mouths open. The reason? Accounting moves to reduce costs. Each title served as a loss, represented money that did not come out in royalties. The examples were dramatic. Imagine the bewilderment of a child asking, "Dad, where is the last chapter of our favorite series?" Or a film lover when looking for an award-winning film and finding an empty page. In February 2025, HBO Max starred in the most talked-about episode. In one fell swoop, it removed hundreds of titles from a single day, including some cult gems Disney was not far behind. This massive cleanup sparked outrage. How could they erase productions that still generated global interest? Many saw in this a greater betrayal than that of passwords. They were the same companies that once said, "all your favorite content in one place," now reversing that promise. The consequences were immediate. Long-term fans felt disappointed. The platforms, that illusion of an eternal library of entertainment, showed their dark side to top it off. Experts warned that each content not available white box not only decreased supply, it also decreased loyalty. The creative victims of the media apocalypse began to forgive skepticism in the audience. Why pirate something on YouTube when the legal thing just doesn't exist anymore? Thus, while the executives of the companies weighed tax figures, the average user got up from his seat bewildered. The work of years simply erased with a click. Market analyses concluded that this apocalypse was the result of cold corporate decisions. A single example hit the nail on the head. They preferred to delete Westworld, an HBO hit, rather than pay the creators for an extra minute of exhibition. It was confirmation that content no longer mattered as much as profits. By then, the general feeling was that free entertainment was beginning to be resurrected. Where the series disappeared from the official platforms, they were available with a simple search engine on the internet. Lovers of stories didn't just mourn the departure of their shows, they began to rediscover old pirate solutions. The revival of modern piracy. And so came the natural counterattack. Piracy returned with force, dressed in sophisticated finery. In 2024 to 25, old torrent sites gave way to pirate streaming platforms so polished that they rivaled the official ones. It was as if the same former Hollywood employees had clandestinely created mirror services where everything is still there. Clean interfaces, convenient searches, thousands of instantly updated series. And the best thing for many, no ads, no region limitations, no bills payable. Younger users had been the first driver of this comeback. It is estimated that more than 75% of young people admit to having recently downloaded or watched pirated content. even if they are subscribers to legal services. Why? The answer was in the hands of each person. The number of platforms needed to cover the entire desired catalog had become absurd. Whoever wanted to watch The Office in Spain needs Peacock. For Game of Thrones, it requires HBO. For Marvel to drop Disney Plus, and thus continue with each franchise. An average user would have needed 6 different subscriptions to watch their favorite shows, with bills hovering around $100 a month before watching anything. The bill was better than the old cable TV, and on top of that with each exclusive title in a single app. Meanwhile, illegal alternatives were being perfected. Now, a click on a pirate site was enough to access an entire catalog. Complete series, daily premieres, even recent documentaries, all in 4K, subtitled free of charge. The real legal risks seemed minor versus the convenience. Even messaging platforms such as Telegram offered dedicated premiere channels where versions released by filmmakers were shared even before their official premiere. Piracy delivered to the user exactly what streaming had promised, all in one place with no fine print. Visualize this: a student in his room with his laptop open, browsing sites that work like Google, but instead of Google results he gets complete series on her screen. Text reads, "Next episode loading," as she eats popcorn. Around him, hundreds of tiny files are crammed together. Another movie, another concert, another video game available for free. The human being at that moment asks aloud, "Why would I pay $15 when I can have it for free?" In the shadows, the tycoons watch in alarm as the pirates are no longer guys with open ports in a basement, but professional entertainment services. To describe it, they're pirate Netflix, and many seem even more generous. Some even enable safe browsing, without intrusive ads. Others offer personalized recommendations. With them, the experience is uninterrupted. Not a single deleted title, not a subscription riddled with advertising. Nothing that indicates error, subscription required. What do you prefer? 10 services paying $100 each, or a single free pirate portal that has it all? The silent response of millions is written in the statistics. In 2024, pirate download and streaming sites set an all-time record for visits. There is talk of hundreds of billions of visits a year to these platforms, even surpassing pre-Netflix levels. Industry analysts began to sum it up like this: the entertainment industry had shot at the shotgun of digital punishment. A financial collapse, losses, cancellations, stock drops, employment affected. At this point, the storm erupted against the corporate walls. Disney suffered the first visible damage. After a black day on the stock market, it lost about $5,000 million in capitalization. Its executives trembled as the key week of September 2025 ended with 1.7 million cancellations between Disney Plus, Hulu, and others, a 436% jump from normal. The amusement park of finance, which always promised growth, was briefly hit by a gale of subscriber losses. Netflix, for its part, announced in 2025 that it would stop officially reporting how many users it had. The reason? The trickle of casualties was reaching levels that should not be disclosed. That enigmatic announcement confirmed what experts suspected. After the initial growth frenzy, the company was facing signs of burnout. Netflix shares, which had risen 360% in a few years, suffered setbacks. In October 2025, they fell more than 10% overnight after downward forecasts. Investors muttered that streaming was no longer an unstoppable bullet train. Meanwhile, other giants were also reeling. Warner Bros. Discovery and Paramount suffered network cancellations of series due to low ratings or excessive piracy, and cut future productions. The prices of streaming platforms faltered. "There is almost no one who wants to pay for this fractured experience," commented one analyst. The same happened in the traditional sector. Television channels and cinemas sounded the alarm about the flight of the public to the illegal. The impact went further. Hollywood, even fighting strikes by writers and actors, saw how the mountain of promised money flattened. Studios and production companies began to lay off staff. A U.S. company cut 15% of its workforce after a quarter without recovering investment. Those who worked creating content saw cancellations without notice. Series and filming were paralyzed, leaving technicians and creatives without a project. The lights on the set began to go out more frequently. In global figures, the losses already reached astronomical figures. Various consulting firms projected that, if the trend continued, the streaming sector could see losses of $13,000 million by 2027. Beyond Wall Street money, real people were paying the price. The faces behind forgotten series were laid off, development offices closed, and several dreams of small production companies that depended on the streaming boom were demolished. The wounded in the plot were not only statisticians but families like Carla's, who were paid for their talents or invested years of filming, now precarious. All this while, the pirates, for their part, gained unstoppable ground. They celebrated in anonymity. Their clandestine platforms buzzed with continuous traffic. They found fertile ground. If the legal market is hostile, the illegal one accepts you with open arms. The contrast was stark. Executives attended balance sheets and press conferences, asking themselves, how do we stop this? Ordinary users viewed the situation with a mixture of rebellion and relief. Without legal chains, the entertainment was theirs again. The Titanic effect. Amid all the chaos, an inevitable analogy emerged. Had platforms become the Titanic of entertainment? This comparison emerged from a sense of arrogance, followed by a resounding collapse. At their best, streaming executives seemed to ignore any warnings. To paraphrase the most famous cruise ship, the industry was cheering, impossible to sink. Netflix even boasted of its inexhaustible bandwidth and unbreakable moat. Reality proved otherwise. Like Captain Bligh, who didn't see the iceberg, the leaders of these companies sailed confidently. They believed that with their disruptive model, they were free of traditional risks. Wall Street comments like, "buy every dip," only quelled the storm a little. However, the Titanic analogy went further. Platforms, such as the 1912 ship, claimed that this new digital world was safe, invulnerable to user pressures and piracy. Suddenly, cracks appeared. The erosion of trust was an invisible iceberg that began to open gaps where income and loyalty navigated. The Titanic effect was noticed when, after weeks of storm, it was no longer enough to cover a hole. The ship threatened to sink. Executives called emergency meetings. One group wondered if they should go back so far or try to reshape the experience. Internally, there was talk of a clash of generations. Our parents changed movies for Netflix, our children change us for pirating everything, commented a Hollywood producer bitterly. In the public hearing, the metaphor was used by columnists and commentators. The industry believed it would float forever, but it collided with reality. The public, meanwhile, already sensed what their pockets confirmed. This ship they trusted, suddenly, was not so safe. Some investors joked, instead of "save the platform," they proposed "save the snacks," as they evacuated to illicit alternatives. The truth is that, as in the real Titanic, there was a long period of denial before the tragedy. At first, Netflix, Disney, and HBO refused to believe that piracy was still alive. In interviews and tweets, they repeated, "We are experimenting with more options," or "the subscriber market remains strong." However, deep down, they knew that ignoring the public's fury could end up sinking them. The moral was painful and already obvious. Not even the largest company is free from sinking if it does not repair the ship. What comes next? Final lesson. On the deck after the crash, questions abound. Is there a future in streaming? Or just one more step towards the normalization of piracy? The only certainty is that the latest decisions of the companies left an indelible mark. The final lesson of this saga of betrayals and losses is twofold. For companies, an urgent call to remember why they succeeded in the first place. For viewers, a bitter reflection on their consumption choices. The platforms, knowing they are hurt, will face an inevitable dilemma. They must decide whether to rectify it, return to a strategy that values the customer, offering a balance between price, content, and freedom. Perhaps it is time to reconsider global bundlings or alliances that end fragmentation. Perhaps streaming will once again promise the comfort of yesteryear without cheating. Full catalog, reasonable prices, family accounts without surprises. If they learn from this shipwreck, they may be able to revive confidence. Meanwhile, modern piracy will continue to rise. Some believe that, after this shock, it will never return to the recessionary level of yesteryear. Technology has advanced, and people know that there are simple alternatives. Perhaps hybrid platforms will emerge, legal but more flexible, pointing to the imbalance, paying $10 but seeing everything. Or perhaps we will see regulations that better shield global launches. The future is uncertain, but the warning is clear. For the consumer, the moral is lukewarm. Remember that every illegal download has a face behind it: producer, actor, screenwriter. But also to understand that many of these people feel that the paid system has failed them. Perhaps a new, ethical user will emerge, one who accepts legality only if he does his fair share. The story closes with one last visual wink, an almost empty movie theater while a bright sign twinkles on the screen: the end of streaming. The credits speak of figures and regrets, and one last sentence resonates as a final moral: the titans of entertainment forgot that the client built his empire. Whoever betrays trust does not forget the way back. From the cliffs of the digital economy, the final lesson goes like this: without trust, there is no subscription that is worthwhile. Without accessible content, there is no model that works. The return of piracy is the first sign. The market has shown, by force, that it will be responsible for filling the gaps left by the giants. Now, every executive on Wall Street or Hollywood knows that loyalty is not bought with cuts and restrictions. The end of this story is yet to be written, but its first act leaves us with an indisputable lesson. The platforms of tomorrow will have to choose between betraying the audience or sync with them